What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiance Before the 90 Days, Season 7, The Tell All Part 1. So I want to get to the part where everybody is seated on stage and Sean goes around the room and she kind of hints at or gives a little teaser of what we're going to be covering with each couple. First and foremost, Rain and Chitty are not present because is according to the blogs and word on the street is that Rain was on social media and she had violated her non-disclosure by talking about things regarding the show that she was not supposed to talk about. And so that's the reason why they were not invited to the tell-all. Now, I feel like Loren had done the same thing because Loren was on his social media platforms talking about how he was trying to give the most salacious, the most bombastic stories about himself so that the producers could be interested and put him on the show. And how he kept on feeding him all kinds of crazy stories about his life, which I don't know if they were all true or not, but he kept on feeding them stories for them to portray on the show so that he could stay on the show and that hopefully he can come back in another 90 Day Fiance franchise. So he wants to be remembered. He wants to be notable. He wants to be recognized so that he can continue to come back to different variations of 90 Day Fiance. He talks about this on his social media. He admits this. So I don't know why they penalized Rain and Chitty, but then they allowed Loren and Faith to come. And he even talked about how being on the show has helped Faith's social media, and she's gotten a whole bunch of followers and she's been able to make money now on her social media platform because of the show, and basically alleging or hinting at him and Faith are probably on this show for financial gain, for clout, for popularity. They're not a real couple. This is not a real relationship. It's all manufactured by Loren and maybe Faith, just to gain exposure, to help promote their social media, to help promote whatever they got going on, and that they're basically not a real couple. So I don't understand why. Like I said, Rain was penalized, but Loren and Faith were not. But anyway, here we are. So Rain and Chitty are not present. Not Rain, Renee. Renee and Chitty are not present. So Adnan and Tiger Lily, they touch on the fact that they had their baby. Their son is now 6 weeks old. They showed us pictures of the beautiful baby. Loren and Faith, they say that they are back together again, but they're not engaged. So when I heard that they were back together again, at that moment, I was like, okay, Faith, girl, I was riding with you the whole entire season. You were my girl. I was down with you. I was sympathizing with you. I was rooting for you. But now that you're back with this clown, I can't do it no more. Vea is not in studio due to an illness. She's having some type of medical condition. I think she said involving her gallstones, which made her drop 50 pounds. And she did look noticeably thinner on camera or via satellite or wherever she was at. And I didn't think that Via had 50 pounds to lose. I mean, the girl was already thin to begin with. So she lost an additional 50 pounds due to her illness. And because of that, she was not able to travel. I think they film in New York. She wasn't able to travel to New York to film the tell-all on stage with the rest of the cast. Niles and Matilda have not seen each other in 10 months. And the reason why that's significant is because, remember, Niles had promised Mr. Ark that he was going to get Matilda to the United States in 5 months. And Brian and Ingrid, they are still broken up. Thank God. Praise the Lord. They are still broken up and they are in their own separate relationships with other people. So then the show begins with Loren and Faith. So the whole entire time that we were watching Loren and Faith and we were watching their segment, Faith seemed noticeably sad. The girl looked beautiful. Her makeup, her hair, everything about her was really pretty, but she was noticeably very, very, very sad. So she does admit that they are back together, but they are not engaged again. Now, Loren gave some story, some cockamamie story about how he had mailed her he was trying to mail her her engagement ring, but the box got confiscated. I don't know what the hell he was talking about, because Lauren is such a liar. None of the things that he talks about makes any sense to me, because I can't keep up with the lies. There's so many holes in his stories. His stories make no sense. They are just all over the place. And he's just trying to get to the punchline to say the most shocking thing. I think Brian even referred to him as a shock jock, which is exactly what Lauren is. He's just here to shock and titillate us. He's not really here to give any kind of story about long distance relationships or long distance love, or falling in love with a foreigner, or falling in love with somebody that's not in your country. He's not here about that at all. He's just here to shock the people, to be memorable, and to be famous. So he gave some story about her, and I don't know what the hell he was talking about. She doesn't have an engagement ring, and they are not currently engaged, but they are back together. Faith talks about how she can't let go because Loren is her first boyfriend and believes that no one else would accept her. So whenever Faith gets pushed into, like, when people push her by trying to figure out, or trying to have her reveal, why are you with this guy? This guy is not serious about you. He doesn't really love you. He doesn't really care for you. He's not serious about you at all. And if you're not in cahoots with him to be on this show just to gain clout, then exactly why are you with this guy? Because it's blatantly obvious he's not that into you. And whenever people push her on that point, her response is to cry, get emotional, and talk about how, because she's a trans woman, it's hard for her to find real love, and she'll never be accepted, and she'll never have a man really love her for who she is. She goes into that whole diatribe of, men just use trans women. They just take advantage of us. Either they have a fetish, or they're curious, or whatever, but they're not really serious about loving and caring for us, which is true. Okay, that is 100% true. I do believe that. But I think that she hides behind that, because the truth of the matter is they probably are in cahoots to try to be on this show, because this man made a whole fool of her by talking about, having gonorrhea and not taking that very seriously, talking about how he was cheating on her and not taking that very seriously at all. Nothing he ever did with Faith was taken seriously by Loren. But then again, you're talking about how you're back with him after you did that dramatic breakup by giving him back his ring and walking out of the hotel room. Now you're talking about how you're back with him. So, Faith, I'm beginning to think that you probably are in cahoots with this man to try to prolong your little 15 minutes of fame. Niles was very vocal throughout the whole entire tell-all. Niles had a lot to say about every damn body. He was he was definitely the voice of season 7 tell-all. Niles had a lot to say, but he was very vocal about his criticism of Loren. No one believed that Faith should have stayed with Loren. Nobody, because I think they took a poll, like, who thinks that Faith should have something about who thinks that Faith made a mistake by coming back to Loren, or something like that, and everybody raised their hand. They talk about the knife incident. And that knife incident, okay, so they talk about the knife incident where Loren and Faith were in the hotel room together, and they were sitting across the table from each other, and Loren had picked up a butter knife and he was playing with it. And Faith said this was like a threatening gesture towards her, because as a trans woman, she always has to be worried about her safety, because people are serious about, unaliving trans people, transgenders, and all of that. People are very serious about that. That's a very serious thing. And so when he was playing with the knife in front of her, she took that as a threat. And that's when she decided to break up with him and walk out of the hotel room. So they talk about that whole incident. Of course, Loren is like, it wasn't a big deal, because, that whole entire scene lasted about 30 minutes. And I was playing with the knife at various times. So it wasn't threatening. I'm just playing with the butter knife. And even Brian had said that it didn't seem threatening to him at all. And I don't think it really matters if it seemed threatening to anybody else. It only matters if it was threatening to Faith. We don't walk in Faith's shoes. We don't live her life. So if she took that as him being threatening, that's valid enough. He should have, I feel like Loren really should have just apologized and just, leave it at that. So the fact that it didn't seem threatening to other people, doesn't really matter. It felt threatening to Faith, and the way she took it is that's the only thing that counts. So they talked about that, and Faith. Then they talked about how that whole incident where Loren claims that he had told Faith that when he was sleeping at friends' houses, he was literally sleeping with them. Like he was having intimate relations with these friends whosever house he was crashing at. And in the season, Faith had told Loren, well, when you said that, I thought you literally meant you were just sleeping at their house, not sleeping with them. And then Loren had said, it was so obvious when I told you that I was sleeping at their house and we were doing more than just sleeping. And it was very confusing, but I decided to believe Faith. During the season, I believed Faith, that there was like something that was misunderstood, something that was lost in translation. And she really had no clue that this man who she considered her boyfriend was having intimate relations with other people. I really did believe that. So at the tell all, when they brought that whole point up again, and Loren's friend came out on stage, it was some woman that he used to date that is not his friend or something like that. Um, Loren reiterated again that he literally told her that he was sleeping with these people that he was, spending the night with, that they were having intimate relations. And even the friend, no, the friend made it even more confusing because the friend was like, well, the way he explained it to her, I don't think it was really clear to Faith that he was having sexual relations with these people. And I should have stepped in, I should have intervened and told Loren to explain it better, which makes me think that Faith was right. If the friend felt like the way Loren was explaining it wasn't very clear, then Faith must have been right. That she really did not understand when he said that I'm sleeping over at a friend's house. She really did not understand that he was also having relations with these said friends. So I believe Faith on that matter. So it was cleared up as far as, yes, Faith misunderstood. Loren was not clear, and he could have made himself more clear, but I think he was being purposely vague when it came down to that because he didn't want to admit to her that he was actually sleeping around. So at the tell all, though, Faith was like, well, I can't really remember exactly how he explained it to me. If it wasn't for the friend intervening and saying that, he should have explained himself a lot better, then I would have been very kind of like looking at Faith kind of sideways. Like maybe he did make it clear to you, but you just didn't want to believe it, or you were okay with it. So moving on from there, Sean asked if Loren had gone to the Philippines specifically to start, not to start, but specifically for Faith to strengthen their relationship, to move forward in their relationship. Is that the reason why he went to the Philippines specifically for Faith? And then Loren gave another convoluted story about how no, he had bought a one-way ticket to the Philippines to see someone else who ended up being a scammer and scammed him out of some money. He said that he got involved in a whole pyramid scheme, or this person was involved in a pyramid scheme and he lost money and he was scammed. I didn't understand because I don't think it was true. I don't think none of this was true because it didn't make any sense to me. And then his friend tried to defend him by saying that Loren is very gullible. He's very gullible. He's very easy to manipulate. He falls for anything. He doesn't know any better. And I don't think so, because I don't think a person who is so-called homeless and jobless, doesn't have anything, I don't think a person like that who's able to crash on people's couches, who's constantly able to convince people to let him stay with them, probably for free. I don't think that's a person that I would consider to be very gullible and easily to manipulate. I think Loren is like a hustler. I think he's scamming TLC. He's definitely scamming the audience. He's scamming us. Um, he's not some naive, just fell off the turnip truck kind of guy. No, Loren is a schemer. He's a scammer. He's a liar. He's a clout chaser. He's a manipulator. He's a cheater. He's not this naive young boy who doesn't know the ways of the world because he's been so protected his whole entire life. So yeah, friend, you can miss me with all of that. I don't believe that, not at all. So the whole thing about, going to the Philippines because he was scammed, I don't believe that. I think he went there for the show. He had to. This is 90 Day Fiance Before the 90 Days, and part of the process is that the American goes to the other country to meet their significant other, either for the first time or whatever it is. You have to go to the other country to meet your significant other. So yeah, I don't believe that at all. Don't believe that. Um, And he says that when that didn't work with this so-called scammer, that's when he decided to go to plan B, and his plan B was Faith. Loren admitted to sleeping with another girl um, when at some point in his relationship with Faith. At some point after seeing Faith in person in the Philippines, I don't know if it was, I guess when he came back, I really didn't understand the timeline, because he said there was a week when they weren't together that he had slept with another girl, and he said it was with the girl that had given him gonorrhea. Now, when the season started and he first arrived in the Philippines, very early on in the season, he found out that he had gonorrhea and he had to break that news to Faith, right? But on the tell all, he said that he ended up cheating on Faith or seeing somebody else somewhere during his relationship with Faith. And he said that he went back to the girl who gave him gonorrhea. And everybody was shocked. Like, how could you go back to sleep with someone that had given you an STD? Even though it was, his fault also, because he wasn't, protecting himself and whatnot. But so I was really confused about that. I was like, okay, so he cheated on her again, because he cheated on her the first time, right? When he had to admit that this girl gave him an STD. So then he cheated on her again. He cheated on Faith again with the same girl. Like, I was really confused about that. So he did admit to being unfaithful to Faith, going back to the girl who gave him gonorrhea. And they show they showed us a never before seen clip of him and Faith um in the taxi. I don't know where they were going, and he talked about drinking pee. And Faith was very confused. In fact, didn't really understand, or did not want to understand, what the word pee meant, because she pulled out her phone and she was like, "What is the meaning of this word pee that you're saying?" And I think she was just so shocked and confused about what he said. But I think she knew. I think she understood the first time around. But yeah, he talks about, he admits to drinking people's pee, and it's like, Faith. So every single time you're finding out more and more disturbing things about this man, and you still want to be with him. Like, what? So after he talked about drinking pee, that's when Niles had said to Loren, "You are, out of the 5 people that I hate the most, you're 2 of them. You're evil and you're stupid." So the thing about Niles is that he really does say the things that we're all thinking, but are too polite to say. Niles laid it out. He was really blunt with everybody. He called it for what it was. He did not beat around the bush. He wasn't playing games with nobody. He told everybody exactly what they needed to hear, whether they wanted to or not. And like I said, he was saying the things that we all are thinking, but are too afraid to say. So he was really giving me all of the entertainment that I needed. So Loren didn't care. He thinks all of this is a joke, just like he thinks that, Faith is a joke. Everybody was really sympathetic towards Faith. But Brian also called out Faith, and asked her, "Are you with him for money? Is that the reason why you're with him?" And I don't think he was like really criticizing her or trying to make her look bad when he asked her that. I think he was trying to find a reason why someone who appears to be as sweet and kind and caring and sympathetic as Faith, why would you be with someone who is such a monster, who is like so horrible, who's such a villain? And I think he was trying to figure out, like, what the hell could it possibly be? Oh, he must be taking care of her and her family. So Faith did admit that, yes, Loren has been sending me money. And they asked Loren, "How much have you sent her?" And he said about, what did he say, like 10,000, $8,000 to $10,000. And Faith was like, "No, it's not that much. Right now there's $2,000 sitting in some account, but she wasn't able to have access to it." So then Loren kept on saying, no, 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 I've given you more than that. I've given you, this amount at this time, this amount at that time. It's been more than $2,000. And then his friend goes, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. He's very easy to take advantage of, basically implying that Faith is using him for money. And Loren was like, not only do I send money, but I also send, like cleaning supplies and all other kind of things to her and her family. They've mentioned to me that they want a house. And so I'm like working on that. And he said that if I'm doing anything that is making her uncomfortable, all she has to do is say the word and I'll back off. So, and that was basically the end of that segment. I really do think that Faith is not as innocent as she appears. And this is probably not, I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. I think that she probably is thinking of herself and her family. And I think that Loren is willing and able to give whatever she needs, which, it's working for both of them. Fine. I'm not faulting her for that at all, because he knows exactly what it is. Now, the thing is, though, is that the whole entire season, Loren was giving this really sob story about being unemployed. Not being unemployed, but, he has like a whole bunch of different jobs. He doesn't make a lot of money, and he doesn't have anywhere to stay. He's couch surfing, basically homeless. But then you're giving her $8,000 to $10,000, but you're homeless. You can't afford to have your own place at all. You went to the Philippines with only $45, but you're homeless. And if he's giving her 8,000 to 10,000 American dollars, by the time that she converts that to Filipino dollars, that's a lot of money in her country. That's a hell of a lot of money. So I was very confused about that. But I've written off Loren as being, like Brian said, he's a shock jock. He just wants to shock us. He just wants to be popular. He wants his name to be known, and he's just trying to figure out a way to stay on TV. Moving on to Vana and Bojo, which to me was a waste of time. Vana and Bojo was a waste of time. They were together like one day, and then he broke up with her, and then she moved on to Josco. So I'm like, what is the point of having Bojo on this? And Vanya, why are you crying over him? She's crying over Bojo because he was still, standing 10 toes down with this whole thing about we were just friends. I had no feelings for her other than friendship feelings, and I didn't lead her on, and we were just friends. And, she starts crying about, and I'm like, girl, why are you crying about this guy? Now, when they were showing us the clip of the history of their relationship, when they showed us that package, there was a scene in there where Vanya had referred to Bojo as hot and pure perfection. So I forgot that she said that during the season. So when they showed that clip again, I was like, yeah, Vanya, I don't think I can trust your judgment. I don't think I can trust your judgment. If you consider someone like Bojo hot and pure perfection, I can't. Vanya, yeah. I don't know, girl. I don't. Your judgment in men is way off. It is horribly off. So they talk about how Bojo was leading her on. He said that he talked to her only as a friend. And Bojo said that he didn't kiss her when she was in Croatia because he felt like she was out of his league. So he's on that stage and he's still lying. He did not think that she was out of his league. I've always thought that Bojo still has something going on with his ex. I think Bojo really, really, really was in love with his ex. The ex dumped him, and he was using Vanya as rebound. And I think when Vanya showed up in his country, I think things were rekindling with his ex. And that's why he was keeping Vanya at a distance, because he was trying to reconcile with his ex. And Joe called him out on it. Like, do you have a girlfriend? Because it seems like you're really worried about how you appear because your girlfriend is watching. The way that you're very calculated with your responses and how you're acting, and really downplaying whatever he had going on with Vanya. It really does seem like, he's trying to keep the embers still burning with his ex. And that's why he's treating Vanya so cold. And at some point, Vanya had said that her ex had reached out. No, his ex had reached out to her, and they showed us the text message. And the ex was basically trying to figure out if Bojo was dating them at the same time. And the ex felt like she was being played because, she was getting hints or evidence or something that Bojo was possibly seeing somebody else while he was seeing her. And which is true. I feel like that's true. I think that's exactly what was going on. That's what I thought. That's what the ex thought. Um, I do believe that that's what was going on. He was playing both of them. And so the people were grilling him. The cast was really grilling Bojo. And all of a sudden, Bojo talked about how he had to leave because he had a meeting at 10 o'clock at night. And because it was 10 o'clock over there in Croatia. And he's like, well, I got to go, y'all. It's been nice. It's been real. I got to go. Bye. And Vanya was like, what meeting could he possibly have because he's unemployed? So when the questions got too hot and heated and they brought out that text message from the ex, and that's when he bounced. He couldn't take it anymore. And that's when Vanya started crying. I'm like, girl, why are you crying over this guy? And, just like on Love After Lockup, the relationships that people have when the other party is incarcerated, I don't consider that a real relationship. You don't really know somebody until you are spending time with them. So the relationship that she was having with Bojo online, I don't consider that a real relationship. Having a relationship through text messages and video chat, that is not a real relationship. So you can't really count that as a real relationship. But anyways, she's up there crying and boo-hooing and everything over Bojo when he dumped her like a day or two after she arrived in Croatia. Like, I did not understand at all. Vanya falls quickly and she falls hard. And her cousin needs to get her out of that mindset. So we're not done with Vanya because they're going to bring out Josco at some point next week, I think. And so we're going to have to go through this whole rigmarole again with Vanya. Moving on to Tiger Lily and Adnan. So Adnan, he's a piece of work. Adnan is a piece of work, but I have to remind myself, he's only 23 years old. Okay, I have to remind myself of that. Why Tiger Lily wanted to hitch her wagon to someone like this, I will never in life understand. There is no way anybody can make me understand why this woman, but then again, Tiger Lily, I'm sorry to say this, it's going to sound so horrible, but Tiger Lily's mentality, I think, is on the level of a 23-year-old. Because everything about her, I don't know if it's an act or if this is who she really is, everything about Tiger Lily comes across as just very immature, very, very immature. And the fact that she insists on talking in that little baby voice is so, it just adds to it. It adds to the whole persona of someone who is years behind her actual age. Like, her mental capacity is years behind where it needs to be. It truly, truly is. I don't know if she thinks acting like that makes her look younger, and that's why she's putting on the whole baby doll act, or if I don't know what's going on with Tiger Lily, but as a grown woman, like, I feel like I'm grown and I feel like I'm mature and I feel like I act my age somewhat. I find it very, very off-putting to see another grown woman. And I think me and Tiger Lily are within the same age range. I think we're within the same decade. And I just find it very off-putting to see that. Very, very off-putting. Like, you're raising children. You're raising kids. And you just want to talk and come off like a baby because it's so cute and adorable. And this is what brings the men to you. Anywho, they first talk about Adnan and appointing his brother as his power of attorney, and how that was like a really big deal between him and Tiger Lily, because towards the end of the season, when Tiger Lily found out, she contacted Adnan and said, look, I don't feel comfortable with your brother being power of attorney because I have a feeling, or I'm worried that he's going to have access to my money. As much as Adnan tried to convince her that that was not the case, she didn't feel comfortable with it at all, because, the brother would stand in Adnan's shoes and he would be able to do all the things that Adnan would be able to do. And as her husband, he has access to her money, and she was worried that the brother would also have access to her money. So in order to, I guess she uses as some type of a leverage, she told her husband, well, if he's going to be your power of attorney, then I want a postnuptial agreement. So because he did not want to sign the postnuptial agreement, he agreed to get rid of his brother as power of attorney. Now, on at the tell-all, Adnan had said that his brother was going to act as power of attorney only for business reasons only. And Vanya had asked, is that how the power of attorney was written? That he was only supposed to act in your shoes only for business purposes, to handle your businesses in the Middle East. And Tiger Lily had said, no, that is not how the power of attorney was written. The power of attorney was written in a way that gave the brother general powers, general abilities to do whatever in the place of Adnan. So because he didn't want to sign the postnuptial, he ended up getting rid of his brother as power of attorney. Now, I do remember how Tiger Lily was making it a big deal about how often Adnan was going to be traveling to the Middle East, because he kept an apartment there, and she kept on talking about how, um, I feel like you're going to spend all this time in Jordan, and you're going to be going back and forth and not spending enough time in America with me. And I'm going to feel like a single mom. And he was like, I don't really care. I'm going to keep my apartment in Jordan. Now, the thing is that now that his brother is no longer a power of attorney, I feel like Adnan would be traveling to Jordan a whole lot more. If he really does have all these businesses over there, whenever something needs to be taken care of, like if he needs to sign something or look over something or be a part of a meeting or whatever, and it can't be done by Zoom or by DocuSign, he's going to hop on a plane. He's going to be like, I got to go to the Middle East. And she's going to start complaining all over again. Oh, you're always gone. You're always gone. And he's going to be like, well, my brother could have handled it for me as my power of attorney, but you didn't want that, remember? So I got to go. So moving on from that. And everybody felt like it was a bad idea that they did not do the postnuptial agreement. Everybody was like, Tiger Lily, you should protect your assets, because you rushed into this marriage without really, really knowing him. And now he's going to have access to everything that you worked for, or everything that you have. I don't know how much of it she actually worked for, because, word on the street, her ex-husband was loaded and left her a ton of money when they divorced. So people were like, yeah, you should have done the postnuptial agreement. So, her friend Cruz comes out, and Cruz felt like the marriage was very rushed, and he felt like they rushed to get married to have children. And I think it was Vanya that asked, did y'all rush to get married just to have sex? Is that the reason why? Because, it was against his religion for them to have premarital sex. Did y'all rush to get married just to, get it on and popping as soon as she arrived? And they were like, no, what's his name? Adnan was like, no, we wanted to have a family. Well, he didn't talk that deep because his voice is very, very high pitched. He was like, no, we wanted to have a family. We wanted to, be together and have a marriage and have children and, the whole family thing. Right. And so Tiger Lily didn't think that she needed more time to get to know him. I'm like, what? You felt like the 6 months that y'all were communicating online was enough to really know this man, to the point where he's going to be the stepfather to your children and the father to any children that y'all have together. And you felt like you knew enough about him to allow him around your children. 6 months online, and as soon as you land in Jordan, y'all got married. This is the reason why I say her mentality is like years behind her actual age. She's years behind where she actually needs to be. They talk about the whole double standard thing. Him telling her you can't wear certain things, you can't shake a man's hand, you can't look at a man, you can't talk to a man, you can't do this and that, and the third. But I can do whatever the hell I want to do. I can walk around with my shirt completely open. I can shake women's hands. I can post provocative pictures online. I can do whatever the hell I want to do. So they talked about that. And Tiger Lily said that it's not really any more of a double standard, because all the things that she can't do, now he cannot do either. Like he can't, for example, the examples that she gave was he did not want her to have a male doctor. So then in turn, he cannot have a female doctor. And she has to be covered up. And in turn, he has to be covered up as well. He can't walk around with his shirt unbuttoned down to his belly button. So to her, things are now equal and things are now even. Sean asked Tiger Lily, why do you seem more compliant now with all of his demands? Because during the season, you were challenging him and all the things that he required of you. And she said that she says the reason is because she really wasn't clear during the season on all the do's and don'ts, like what he expected of her. She really wasn't really clear on how to dress, didn't know the custom of the country about shaking men's hands and all this other stuff. She really wasn't clear on the things that she was allowed to do and not to do. But now she is. Now, I think the reason why she's more compliant now is because she's actually living with this man now. And she is seeing the real deal Holyfield that is Adnan. I think that Adnan has a temper. I think that Adnan is extremely controlling. I think that I'm not going to throw the A word out there. I'm not going to throw that word out there because I really don't know. But it comes across as if, he kind of holds the power in that relationship. And I think that to make him mad is a very scary thing for Tiger Lily. And so she would rather just give in to him because it's easier to get along with him and to give him what he wants than it is to challenge him and make him upset. Because I think then she really suffers when she goes against his wishes and goes against, what he wants. So I think just to keep the peace in the house and and just to keep her own mental peace and emotional peace, she'd rather just go ahead and just do what he says. Tiger Lily, okay. Vanya and Niles, they challenge Adnan on his controlling ways. They talk about, and Brian too. They're like, okay, you're very controlling, and you know, that's not cool. But I think that Tiger Lily likes it. I think Tiger Lily, in a way, likes this because her ex husband was controlling, and you would think that coming from one controlling like you would think that after ending everything with her ex husband, that she would try to stay away from a man that showed any signs of being controlling. But she jumped from, what do they say? She jumped from the fire into the frying pan or something. It just went from bad to worse, or from worse to just as worse, or whatever. This guy is very controlling. This guy is extremely controlling. But she says he's not. She's like, I don't think he's controlling. He doesn't tell me what to do. Okay. The mother, then they showed us a clip of Tiger Lily, which they didn't show us during this, which I'm like, all of these clips that y'all are showing us in the tell all, like, why didn't you show us this during the season? These were some really good clips. They showed us the clip of Tiger Lily having a conversation with her mother-in-law, Adnan's mother. I think this was in Turkey, when they met up in Turkey. And she was talking to her mother about Adnan, controlling how she dresses and everything else. And the mother said that I did not raise him to be that way. I've told my children that men cannot control women, that women are independent. They can do whatever the hell they want to do. And that's how I've raised my kids, to respect women and to, allow women to be who the hell they want to be and to do whatever they want to do. So I don't play into that whole thing of the man controlling the woman and being very dominating and all of that. So the mother was like, yeah, I'm not down with that. And so the cast, when they saw that clip, they were like, okay, so Adnan, you were not raised that way. Your mom doesn't believe in that. So you're only acting like that because you're trying to like hide it under the guise of, oh, my religion. My religion dictates that this is how we should be. But your own mother is saying that she didn't even raise you like that. Now, this is what I personally believe. I think that most women who live in societies where women are second class citizens and don't have the same rights as men, I think a lot of the women who live in those type of environments want freedom. They want to be independent and they don't want to be held down. Just like Adnan's mother, she doesn't believe. A lot of the women in those countries don't want that, but their governments and the men in their lives dictate that, but they don't want that. So just because they don't want that doesn't mean that they don't live that life. And Adnan's mother divorced Adnan's father. And from my understanding, it seemed like she was still single when they were recording the show. And so it appears like, she got away from that because she divorced her husband and she can do what she wants. But just because his mother taught them that doesn't mean that Adnan was instilled with that, because he still lived in a country that treated women as second class citizens. He still lived in that type of country where he was still absorbing, the rules of the land, and maybe he preferred that to what his mom was trying to teach him. I don't know, because I'm not understanding why he's treating Tiger Lily like this if his mom raised him to not be like this. He made the girl wear like a full on bodysuit to go swimming at an indoor pool. I don't understand. I don't know. I don't know. So Sean asked Tiger Lily, what did she take away from that conversation with her mother-in-law? And before she could even speak, Adnan whispered, or he said under his breath, be careful. Like, be very careful with what you're about to say. Be very careful with how you're going to answer this question. And Brian overheard this, and Brian was like, did you just tell her to be careful? So Tiger Lily says, well, she goes, well, how can I put this in a more positive way? She says, well, what she took from that conversation with her mother-in-law was she took it as more in a positive way. She says that he doesn't want me in a room with another man, and this is what keeps our marriage strong. And I'm like, this is the complete opposite of what the mother-in-law was trying to tell you. The mother-in-law, I think, was trying to say that a woman can be in a room with another male, either within her husband's presence or without her husband's presence. She should be able to be in a room with another male, or shake a man's hand, or have a male doctor perform, medical procedures on her. And Tiger Lily is like she's gonna say what her husband wants her to, what her husband wants her to say, because it's just better for her to go along with him. Because once these cameras stop rolling on this stage and the lights are turned off and everybody leaves, and she has to get back on that plane back to Texas, she has to live with this man. And there's no way that that house is going to be peaceful if she's on that stage showing out and trying to assert her independence and try to go anything against what this man believes or says. She still has to go home with this man after this tell all. Okay? It ends with us, but it doesn't end with her. It still goes on with her. She still has to live with this man. And they have a baby together. So she's probably like, yeah, whatever he wants, whatever he wants me to do is for the strength of our marriage. Joe says that it seems like Tiger Lily is walking on eggshells. Exactly. I saw that. I felt that. Like she was intimidated by her husband. But yeah, she was. I felt like she was. I felt like, because she wasn't. She was very quiet for the majority of this tell-all. She was very, very quiet. When she did speak up, she spoke up in defense of Adnan. And Adnan was not anybody's favorite. Nobody was on Adnan's side. But she spoke in defense of her husband. At some point, Adnan got so upset with how he was being challenged and attacked by other cast members, he got up and he walked off. And Sean asked if Tiger Lily is scared of Adnan, and she was like, no. And Brian had pointed out, she said she wasn't scared, she wasn't afraid of him. Then Brian said, well, look how you're dressed. I mean, you're dressed to appease him, because you're covered up from your neck all the way down to your ankles. And she was like, well, I did just have a baby. Girl, we get that. We're not expecting you to come out in some extremely tight, form-fitting dress with all kinds of holes and cut out, showing off all your. We're not expecting that. But you could have worn something to flatter your figure, but it wasn't so so, I don't know, so covered up. You know what I'm saying? There's dresses out there for women who don't want to show off everything, but also don't have to cover up everything. And I'm not saying she should dress in any way that she's not comfortable. If she felt more comfortable in that because she just had a baby, fine. We respect that. We get that. But girl, it did not go above our heads that you dressed in a way that seems like your husband would definitely approve of. So then Vanya asked her, well, can you dress, more provocative, or can you dress however you want? Like at home? And she was like, yes, he allows me to dress whatever I want to dress. I can dress any way that I want to dress. Okay, I'm not on her Instagram or her social media. Maybe she's out there busting it wide open and, on social media with her string bikinis and whatever else, and he's okay with that. I have no idea. So I can only agree with her. I can only go by with what she's saying. Um, Tiger Lily said, okay, they asked, she said she just, okay, they asked Tiger Lily, why was Adnan so upset because he walked off the stage? And she was like, he's not upset. Then why did he walk off the stage if he's not upset? So during the break, Tiger Lily says everyone else is just jealous. Okay, so Tiger Lily and Adnan are together backstage during the break. And Tiger Lily is telling her husband that everybody is just very jealous of them because they have the most successful relationship. um there's a scene where she's like fixing her hair or something in front of the mirror, and Adnan is standing behind her, and Adnan is like, I don't know why they're attacking me. They're not respecting us. And Tiger Lily is telling Adnan, oh, forget about them. Forget about them. It doesn't matter what they think. The only thing that matters is what we think. Forget about them. So she doesn't care what anybody has to say. This is her man. She's going to stand by him. She's happy. She's in love. She sees no issues with their relationship. Adnan confronts the other castmates. Why are they, attacking them? And they say, we got to call you out on when you're wrong. When you're wrong, we're going to call you out on it. And so Brian is trying to give him advice. Like, you're just this really young, like hot-headed young guy. You don't know any better. You're going to learn more as you live. I had to learn hard lessons too when I was younger. And Adnan was extremely rude to Brian, and Brian is not my favorite, but it was really uncalled for when Adnan told Brian, how can I take advice from somebody in a wheelchair? I mean, that was just awful. That right there should have him banned from 90 Day Fiance forever. Anyway, so then when we come back on stage, it's time for Niles and Matilda. So Tiger Lily and Adnan were not present. They were not there. And Niles tells Sean that, Adnan was having a temper tantrum. And everyone believed that Adnan was hiding behind his culture, that he was using his culture as an excuse to treat his wife horribly. Everybody said that he said Tiger Lily had a small mind. I don't remember hearing him say that, but everybody said he said that to her, that she had a small mind. So when we get to Niles and Matilda, finally, Sean first asks, what has taken so long for Matilda to get to the United States? And because he promised to have her here in 5 months, and now it's been 10 months. And the process is expensive. It's expensive, it's time consuming. And unfortunately, Niles didn't know that then, but he knows it now. And he says that he's done with his part of the application process. Now it's time for her to do her part. And it's going to cost $4,000 to get that done, to get everything done. They asked him, can you go to your parents for money? And Niles was like, you did watch the show, right? Because I think it was Vanya that asked him, can you go to your parents for the money? And he looks at her, he's like, you did watch the show. And you did see how my parents practically disowned me because I'm with Matilda. Now go ahead and ask me that question again. And he says that no, his parents are not going to help him. And they asked him, why don't they like Matilda? And he says, because they think that Matilda is a scammer. So Brian hopped onto this and he was like, maybe, she is with you because she wants to come to the United States. And Niles was like, come to the United States for what? So she can pay, excessive rent. So you work yourself to death, just to barely stay alive. Overworked, underpaid, high rent, high groceries, high everything. Can't make ends meet no matter how much education you have, no matter how much you work, you're still struggling to make ends meet. Like, why would she want to come to a life like that? She's coming here for me. And so then they asked Matilda, Brian asked Matilda, if he was living in Peru, I don't know why he chose Peru. He's like, if he was living in Peru, would you still want to be with them? And she was like, I'll do you one better. We can live in Ghana. That's how much I'm trying to let y'all know I'm not scamming him. I'm not trying to find a free ride to the United States. I'm trying to be with my man. And if he wants to come to Ghana, I'm cool with that. And she also said if she was with him for the money, why was she? This wouldn't be the way to do it because Niles is broke. Niles is broke. She's like, if I wanted to be with somebody for the money, I could have chosen a man over here in Ghana because there's a lot of men here who have a lot of money. And so Brian was like, maybe you want that American life. And that's when Niles was like, what American life are you talking about? So while we're deep in Niles and Matilda's story, all of a sudden Adnan and Tucker really come back out. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Y'all cannot be interrupting another couple's segment when, y'all were too immature to stay on stage. And, we're taking care of business here. We're conducting a show here. We've moved on to another couple, and we're more interested in them than what y'all got going on. So they come waltzing up on stage, disrupting the Niles and Matilda segment, and Sean gives her attention to Adnan and says, why did he insult Brian about being in a wheelchair? And Adnan kind of avoided that question. And he basically was like, well, I'm not going to take advice from somebody who, was a drug addict and an alcoholic and cheated on his wife. I'm not taking advice from a guy like that. So Adnan and Niles, they go back and forth, because Niles stepped in and he kind of exchanged words with Adnan. And then Adnan he asked Matilda if she would like it if Niles said nothing if other men were ogling her. So if she was dressed suggestively and other men were ogling her, would she be okay with Niles not saying anything and not being jealous? And Matilda was like, oh, for sure Niles would be jealous. And then Niles was like, Matilda. No, he says, Matt, no, I wouldn't. You haven't seen a jealous bone in my body. I've never exhibited any jealous behavior. And so then Adnan started laughing because he thought it was really funny how they could not agree on that. And, because he's like, basically, I think he was like, hey, y'all want to come after my relationship and y'all can't even get y'all story straight. So he starts laughing. And Niles was boiling because, Adnan brought Matilda into this now. Adnan addressed Matilda, was trying to use Matilda to make him look like a damn fool. And Niles wasn't having that. And so Niles, you could tell the volcano was erupting within that man. He looked at Adnan and he was like, Adnan, I will break your face. And that's where the segment ended. That's where the episode ended. The 2 hours flew by. They flew by because I was so invested. I was so engrossed in this tell-all. This tell-all was so good. And I am so glad that they did not invite Renee and Chitty. I would have been okay with Chitty being there and he could have given his side of the story, all of his side of the story, and I wouldn't give a damn what her side would have been. But Renee would have what's the word I'm looking for? I just, it was the tip of my tongue. Commandeered. She would have commandeered that whole entire reunion. She would have been insulting Chitty, his family, insulting everybody on stage. It would have been like a major, it would have been really chaotic if Renee was on that time. I'm so glad she wasn't because she really would have tried to garner all of the attention. But that was a pretty good reunion. And I cannot wait for part 2 when Niles and Adnan go toe to toe, face to face. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video if you like this content, subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.